Which Final Fantasy Precon commander should you run out of the box? Let's take a look. Hello everybody and welcome back into the fort. My name is Tyler Savesya Bucks and I'm here to talk about the Final Fantasy commander decks. If you're picking up one of these commander decks, you might be asking yourself the question, which one of the commanders should I run? The face commander, the backup commander? And that's what I'm here to talk about. You can take or leave my advice when it comes to this because you might like a character over another one, and that is totally fine. But I just want to give a little bit of direction in case people are picking this up, maybe just because they thought they looked cool or you're deep into Final Fantasy. Let's take a look at some of the commanders and pick which one of these will work best with the rest of the 99. Kicking things off with Final Fantasy VI's deck. So most of these decks will be themed, I think all of them actually, will be themed around the video game that represents them. So I think it's, well, we'll go through in a second. So everything is very thematic within these decks. So if you're a fan of one of these games, this is the product for you. First off, we're going to look at Revival Trance. Sorry, I almost said Revival Force. Revival Trance. This is headlined by Terra, which is red, white, and black for a 3/3, has Trance, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until end of turn. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So a little bit of like a Sun Titan-esque with the whole 3, but I think that's mana value. Either way, very strong card. Let's look at the backup commander, which is Celeste, Rune Knight, 1 red, white, and black for a legendary human wizard knight. I'm not going to read all of that. You get it. It's a 4/4, and when it enters, you may discard any number of cards, then draw that many +1. And then whenever one or more other creatures you control enter, if one of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So also very strong. It's kind of tough to pick which one of these I would suggest to run just because of the power level of these two. But what I'm leaning towards is actually the face commander for this. Why I say Terra is because the deck is filled with a lot of ways to get things from the graveyard for sure. But Terra is pretty cheap. You can get her down early and start milling right away, and also has recursion right then and there. So if the deck already has a lot of ways to bring things back from the graveyard, then there's a very good chance that you can bring something back with the card's own ability, and then also with Terra to bring back more things over and over again. Celeste is very strong, and I like that it's almost a wheel on just ETB, which is really, really cool. But then at the same time, when it doesn't pull things back out of the graveyard, it says whenever one or more creatures enter, all of that. So it benefits you when the deck is doing the thing, whereas Terra helps you do the thing. So if you're asking me, especially if you're just picking this up and not doing many upgrades, I would say to run Terra in the Final Fantasy VI deck. Let's move on to a fan favorite and one of my favorites as well. Final Fantasy VII, we have Cloud X Soldier, which is the face commander for Limit Break, the name of the deck. It is 2 red, white, and green for a 4/4 with haste. When it enters, attach up to 1 target enchantment? No. Equipment you control to it, and then whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has 7 or more power, create 2 treasure tokens. So a lot of text there, but also very good text. We also have Tifa, Martial Artist, which is 1 red, green, and white for a 4/4 with melee. And then whenever one or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deal combat damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If it's the first combat phase of your turn, there's an additional combat phase. Both very, very strong commanders. When I'm looking through this deck, there's a lot of stuff that cares about equipment. There's a lot of equipment in the deck as well. I would say that both are relatively good to run just because of the fact that Tifa can give you multiple combats. The only thing when it comes to Tifa is the fact that you have to hit something with 7 power, which again kind of draws you to the fact that you need to be using a lot of equipment to get there. Whereas what I'm suggesting you run is the Commander Cloud, the Face Commander. He works off of equipment. He helps you draw into more equipment, gives you treasures to be able to equip and cast more equipment. It's very equipment forward. So I would say Tifa is probably one of the best cards in this deck, but Cloud, I would suggest to be the one to be the head of this deck, especially once again, if you're not doing too many upgrades off the rip when you buy this. Tifa would make an amazing commander. So if you're looking to brew around Tifa, let me know in the comments what cards you're excited to put in there for that 7+ power matters type of deck. Let's move on to another, I think this is the last game that my brothers played when I was little, so I don't really know too much past this, but 10, which is Counter Blitz, helmed by Titus, Yuna's Guardian. I say Titus, I've heard Titus. Actually, a funny thing is, I believe this is when we had voice acting, but before this, there wasn't any voice acting. So there was so many names that we got wrong growing up when my brothers played these games. And specifically, I remember we called chocobos Cocobos. So that was kind of a, shock when we heard how they were actually supposed to be said. But moving on to Counter Blitz, Titus, Yuna's Guardian, is a green, white, and a blue for a legendary human warrior. I said I wasn't going to say those types, but at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. And then whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. And then the backup commander is Yuna, Grand Summoner, which is 1 green, white, and a blue for a human cleric. She can tap to add 1 mana of any color. When you next cast a creature spell this turn, that creature enters with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it. And then whenever another permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, if it had 1 or more 1/1 counters on it, you may put that many 1/1 counters on target creature. 1 or more counters on it. You may put that many 1/1 counters on target creature. So it can be any counters. In this deck, there is for sure a lot of counter payoffs, a lot of evasive creatures to help you trigger Titus as well. So it really is kind of pointing you in the direction of Titus. And that is, again, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, every once in a while, there's a lot of coin flips with some commander decks that you could run one or the other. But this time around, we are 3 for 3. I'm saying to run the face commander Titus as the commander for this deck. And my reasoning for that is because counters are a very kind of like equipment, are kind of a fragile mechanic in the sense that if the board gets wiped or whatever, all that work that you've been doing can just go away. Titus is cheap enough to cast, get value off of, something gets blown up, and then you can bring them back still relatively cheaply and keep that engine going. Plus the fact that Titus helps you move counters onto things. He helps you draw some cards and proliferate, if easy for me to say, is one of the strongest mechanics in the game. So the fact that it has it right there on the card and the deck is filled with counters, it's a very, very good direction to go in. Yuna is great. If you ask me, I mean, the whole game is kind of about Yuna, so it wouldn't surprise me if some of you run her as the commander. She does give you mana advantage, unlike the card advantage that Titus does. And then the fact that you can throw some counters onto things if things die. I just think Yuna is one of those commanders where you're hoping for a lot of things. You're hoping to have creatures in your hand to be able to cast with tapping her. And also you're kind of hoping that sometimes your creatures will die so you can move, or you can give 1/1 counters to a bigger creature so it can attack. Titus is kind of the full package here. So I'm suggesting, again, go with the face commander. And let's move on to the last commander deck here, which is Scions and Spellcraft for Final Fantasy XIV, I believe, if I know my Roman numerals. This is helmed by Y'shtola, Knights Blessed. White, one, white, blue, and black. Listen, I'm laughing because I sat here and I practiced these last two names, and I know just in my head I'm going to mess up the next one. Okay. This first one, though, is a Cat Warlock 2/4 with Vigilance. At the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you may draw a card, and then you just draw a card. Take it or leave it. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, she deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. This creature is very strong and a lot of people have been talking about it for a while, but let's talk about that backup commander that I'm going to nail the name of. Grahatia, Scion Reborn. I messed up Scion? Whatever. White, blue, and black for a lifelink 2/3, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life, where X is the spell's mana value. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token and put X 1/1 counters on it. Do this once each turn. So a cool kind of token generator there, but when I'm looking over this commander deck in the Precon, it's all about casting non-creature spells. And when you have a deck where you're consistently casting non-creature spells, you get in a spot where you are losing card advantage if those non-creature spells don't draw you cards in the process. Y'shtola allows you to draw a card on each end step. And also, it doesn't necessarily care why your opponents lost that life. They could have paid life. They could have done fetch lands. They could have done other stuff to lose life, and you'll still draw a card. And the deck is kind of built towards that direction. When it comes to Grahatia, it is a cool ability, but not much, from what I can tell in the deck, points towards counters and also tokens. There are some tokens in the deck, but it's not really a token deck. It's a non-creature deck, and in order to really capitalize on that, Y'shtola Night Blessed is another. We're 4 for 4. I'm saying to run her as your commander if you buy this Precon, especially right out of the box. It's so good of a commander that people are talking about possibly doing CEDH around it. It's a very kind of cool strategy to build your way up to making people lose life, so you draw that card. And putting some interesting spells in there that, maybe are non-creature spells with mana value 3 or greater on the stack, but you can cast them for cheaper, other things like that. You can get tricky with it. So there you have it. I went mainstream for this one. I am saying that all of the commanders that you should run for these Precons are the face ones, but let me know if I am off and not correct with any of these choices in the comments. I'm willing to hear a lot of people out because, again, like I said, this is kind of a tricky thing to gauge when you are picking up a brand new pre-constructed deck. So let me know again in the comments below. And if you want to read more about Final Fantasy, you can check out my EDH Rec articles, linked probably right there. I am writing several articles. Some are probably out at this point, and the new bulk up, some of the best commons and uncommons from the set are that article will be on its way, I think, next week. So be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for more Final Fantasy content from this channel as the weeks go on. So thank you everybody for joining me here in the fort. Goodbye.